Welcome back to Bow News Network. Continuing coverage of Hurricane Henri as it makes its way inland towards the region of the Long Island, Suffolk County region. We're getting some really impressive imagery on the Doppler radar, so we definitely wanted to share it with our subscribers at this time. As we go to our Doppler radar, we can actually see clearly what we had anticipated would actually happen based on the imagery that was coming in previously from our infrared. In our previous report, we actually saw a burst, almost a squall that came up from the center, an outer band basically, of activity from the center of the core of Hurricane Henri as it was making its way inland. We can clearly see here that what's actually happening is that we do have flash flood advisories for several regions in New Jersey, most notably East Burlington as well as Ocean County. We're seeing some spots on the Doppler radar right now suggesting that in some spots, in many locations, as this outer band makes its way inland to the Philadelphia area, what's actually being experienced is 1 to 3 inches of downpour in many locations, with up to 8 to 10 inches in some spots. We have a flash flood risk for Toms River, Jackson, Tuckertown, Surf City, as well as Old Halfway. But we're seeing some local spotter reports in the region actually showing some really severe downpours of rain near Harvey Cedars. We actually see areas on the Doppler radar suggesting flash flooding to the tune of 7 to 8 inches per an hour of rainfall, and we're talking about very prolific rainfall coming in. As we anticipated in our previous forecast, we had anticipated when we looked at the infrared radar, we actually saw this outer band extend all the way out from the core of Hurricane Henri, and now that has actually manifested itself into several flash flood zones that are going to be lasting for the next 2 to 3 hours in the region of Middletown as well as Stafford Township, Plainfield, New Brunswick, as well as Elizabeth, New Jersey. If we do take a closer look at the 1 hour storm rainfall sectional here, we see on the right hand side there are actually spots just off the coast of Harvey Cedars that is actually showing rain on a Doppler to the effect of 8 to 10 inches per an hour, possibly. The outer areas of those are on gradients anywhere from 3 inches per an hour to 5 inches per an hour. So I do have a contact in Philadelphia, and he has actually reported that significant rainfall is actually coming down, starting to come down now in the city of Philadelphia. So as we had anticipated that this outer band is bringing significant rainfall to the region, and this will continue for quite some time. As we track the cells that are actually making their way through this region, we do see sort of different directions as far as these different cells bringing significant rain. But in any event, there's several, 6 or 7 at this particular time, local spotter reports of flash flood advisories in the region of New Jersey. So New Jersey is actually taking a significant amount of rainfall at this particular time. And here we can see that the core of the storm, the hurricane, is still quite a bit off the anticipated target, which would be the eastern section of Long Island. But in any event, we are seeing this severe downpour of rain, and this will continue for quite some time into the early morning hours of Sunday as this hurricane makes its way towards imminent landfall somewhere along the eastern section of Long Island in Suffolk County. So we're actually monitoring this system as it makes its way inland. But this is some really incredible Doppler radar imagery as far as the downpour of rain, which we anticipated. We had anticipated that the rain would be coming in somewhere between 3 to 4 inches per an hour at the most. But if this Doppler radar imagery is correct, and we do believe that it's accurate, it's the latest technology, we do see in some sections just off the coast of New Jersey 8 to 10 inches of rain, and that will actually sweep inland very, very shortly. And residents of Philadelphia are now feeling the effects of severe rain in that area at this particular time. Let's take a closer look at the path of this storm and what we had actually marked off previously in our previous report. We were highlighting the fact that any residents on the east of New Haven, Connecticut, should be concerned with significant high gusting winds. The more severe damage is generally felt along the northeastern section of this of a hurricane with this alignment. So that's why we wrote off. This is not necessarily going to be landfall. Landfall is anticipated to be Suffolk County and Long Island along that region. But the more severe weather is anticipated with high gusting winds along this corridor, as far as the dots lining up to be anything on to the east of that would be pretty treacherous as far as significant amount of rainfall, possibly other elements of hurricane coming in. We had mentioned water spouts are definitely a concern. Of course, we're going to be concerned with surge. Now, based on the 1 hour spot for Doppler radar, we're a little bit more concerned about the surge effect at this time, simply because of the significant upgrade in our expectations as far as rainfall in the region. We can just see here that based on everything coming in, this system is going to produce a significant amount of rainfall between Wilmington all the way up to New York, Yonkers. Of course, as the system moves its way in, Connecticut should anticipate very high gusting winds, 75 to 85 miles per an hour possibly. And also there may be likelihood of hail, as well as very, very locally damaging winds, depending on the severity and the locale orientation to the core of the hurricane. Keep in mind that this is not possibly going to be downgraded to a depression in early 2 p.m. Possibly on northern Massachusetts. So what that means is this entire area is going to be inundated with very, very heavy rainfall for a good 16 to 20 hours, which is going to increase the likelihood of severe flooding. With respect to the characteristics of the storm has actually slowed down slightly. It was moving north at 21 miles per hour in our previous forecast. It slowed down quite a bit to 18 miles per hour, and the pressure is basically stabilized. It's dropped a little bit to 986 millibars, but it's still packing maximum sustained winds of 75 miles per hour. But we're very, very concerned about the flash flood advisories that have already been issued, and the core is well off land at this particular time. But we did see this outspurt and outer band develop in the infrared of our most previous update with respect to Hurricane Henri. But we're going to continue to monitor this as it makes landfall. Basically, at this particular point, make sure that you have a reserve of portable water, drinking water, in case that the utilities are lost, in case you lose electricity. Many people actually fill up their bathtub with water and any other containers with water, as long as you still have running water, so that in the event of loss of utilities, which is very, very common sometimes, if there's any kind of contamination of the water supply, you may lose utilities, you may lose, of course, power. So by all means, make sure that you have a reserve of water at this particular time. Hopefully, at this particular time, you've also considered food rationing in case that there's a significant amount of flooding and you're not able to secure transportation to the local grocery store. So these are all major considerations to consider as a hurricane is coming on board. Now, keep in mind, many of the residents have not seen a storm of this nature in up to 30 years. It's been since a storm like this has actually impacted, with the exception of Hurricane Sandy. But for the New Englanders, they haven't seen a storm like this for quite some time. So it's not to be taken lightly. Even as we can see, the core of the storm is well off Long Island. It's imminent landfall point. But we do see those outer squalls starting to impact the regions of Trenton and Philadelphia, with local spotter reports of severe flooding in the regions of Toms River and Tuckerton, Surf City, as well as Old Halfway. So these are areas that should be avoided at all costs because the roadways will be flooded, and most likely power is being lost to thousands of residents at this particular time. And it's definitely treacherous driveways, highways at this particular time to try and with respect to any kind of mobility. So we will continue to monitor this hurricane as it makes its way inland into the continental United States. Hurricane Henri, here at Bow News Network. We will try to bring you the very latest information now that we are able to pick up the storm on one of our Doppler radar stations. We'll be able to bring you some really in-depth coverage as far as what's happening with this storm as it makes its way inland. Where are the local spotter reports? Also, the Doppler radar will also pick up and correlate rotational supercells, which will suggest possible touchdown of tornadoes. So that's something that we want to watch also. So as we mentioned in our previous report, we're always concerned about the possibility of water spouts off the coast, and those have potential of creating a significant amount of property damage as they move their way inland. So tornadoes and water spouts are definitely a concern here in the dark hours of the early morning of Sunday as Hurricane Henri makes its way inland. Imminent impact, landfall somewhere along Suffolk County possibly, and we're looking at flash flood advisories at several spots here in New Jersey from an outer band. So that's it with this update. We'll continue to monitor the Doppler radar and look for the very, very latest update from the National Hurricane Center with respect to Hurricane Henri, whether it strengthens, whether maximum sustained winds actually increase as it prepares to make landfall. Within a few hours, we should have a pretty good idea as far as where to anticipate actual landfall of the eye of the hurricane. So we're going to be continuing to monitor this system as moving forward. So make sure that you like this. Please like this video, share it with friends and family, especially those in the Northeast. They should be prepared with this information so that they can stay ahead of the storm going forward. And as always, please remember to bow to the weather. And thank you for watching Bow News Network. Have a great day or good morning. Thank you.